Hi, this is Daniel DiTuro. Is saturated fat deadly or a miracle healthy fat? In this video, I'll share what is fat, what is saturated fat, is saturated fat a good or bad fat, is butter back, saturated fat and blood cholesterol, and sample high saturated fat foods. First, what do I mean by fat? There are two types of fat, dietary fat and body fat. Both dietary fat and body fat are essential. Dietary fat provides energy and essential fat-soluble vitamins like A, K, and E. Body fat helps regulate body temperature, balance hormone levels, it's necessary for reproductive health, stores fat-soluble vitamins, neurological functions, metabolism, and maintaining blood sugar levels. Some people have too much body fat. Most people are not overweight because they have too much muscle. For healthy living, women need about 10 to 14% body fat and men 3 to 5%. In the U.S., average body fat is between 25 to 32% for women and 18 to 25% for men. Too much body fat increases the risk of type 2 diabetes, heart disease, stroke, artery disease, pregnancy complications, hormone imbalance, some cancers, joint pain, and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Fat provides more calories than any other nutrient and over twice the calories of protein and carbohydrates. 1 tablespoon of oil has about 120 calories. You'd have to eat 12 ounces of broccoli to obtain the same number of calories. This fast food chicken sandwich and fries provides 10 ounces of food, 760 calories, and 37 grams of fat, or 44% of calories. This homemade chicken meal provides twice as much food for a fraction of the calories. Total fat is about 17 grams, or 32% of calories. An easy way to cut calories is by replacing high-fat and calorie foods with low-fat and calorie foods. You won't lose weight by just cutting fat. You must cut calories. So what is saturated fat? There are 3 types of dietary fats: saturated, monounsaturated, and polyunsaturated. Foods, fats, and oils have different percentages of all 3 fats. Chemically, saturated fat has single bonds between carbon atoms, and each carbon atom has 2 hydrogen atoms. Saturated fats are more stable than poly and monounsaturated fats. They don't oxidize and become rancid as fast as unsaturated fats. Fully hydrogenated vegetable shortening has a longer shelf life than vegetable oils. The controversy today is whether or not saturated fat is a good fat or a bad fat. As I've said, foods, fats, and oils have some saturated fat. Low-fat foods like fruit, grains, legumes, and vegetables have little or no saturated fat. High-fat foods, dairy and meat, have higher levels of saturated fat. U.S. dietary guidelines recommend limiting saturated fat to 10% of total daily calories. The key words are guidelines and recommend. Active people maintaining a normal weight, blood pressure, and cholesterol can eat more fat and saturated fat than an overweight or obese person on a high-fat, high-calorie junk food diet. Some low-carb fad diets claim you can eat all the saturated fat you want regardless of your weight or health. They claim saturated fat is a healthy fat. It does not increase blood cholesterol, It's not linked to heart disease and increased mortality, and you'll live longer on a high saturated fat diet. Are these claims about saturated fat valid, and is butter really back? The truth is, butter never left. For several decades, people replaced high saturated fat butter with low saturated fat, high trans fat margarine. We now know trans fat is worse than saturated fat, but that doesn't mean saturated fat is a healthy fat. A research study published in 2014 indicated a high saturated fat diet did not increase the risk of heart disease. The study made headlines like "Butter is back" and "Heart-healthy eggs and bacon." Many Americans ate more butter, bacon, cheese, and high-fat meats. Instead of declining, the levels of obesity, heart disease, and high cholesterol have increased. That's great news for prescription drug makers. The 2014 Saturated Fat Report had a small error that did not make headlines. Their data clearly showed people eating a low saturated fat diet had less heart disease. Eating lots of butter was not back. That doesn't mean you should never cook with butter or enjoy a buttered roll. It means enjoy butter and other high saturated fat foods in moderation. Studies show the healthiest diets are low calorie, low fat, plant food based diets. And low fat diets are low saturated fat diets. I know there are low fat diet skeptics. Most people living long, healthy lives into their 90s and hundreds eat a low-fat, plant-based diet of minimally processed foods. Many Americans over 65 take 5 or more prescription drugs daily for chronic conditions like diabetes, high cholesterol, and high blood pressure. Some of these conditions are hereditary, some due to lifestyle, and others are due to a high-calorie, high-sodium diet. Most blood cholesterol is made by your liver. It's possible having high cholesterol eating a low-fat and cholesterol diet. Dietary cholesterol comes from dairy, meat, poultry, and seafood. One large egg has about 185 milligrams of cholesterol. Plant foods, even high-fat foods like avocados, nuts, and seeds, have 0 cholesterol. Blood cholesterol consists of high and low-density lipoprotein. HDL is called good cholesterol. While high levels of HDL are good, research indicates it does not reduce your risk of heart disease. LDL is called bad cholesterol because high levels are associated with a higher risk of heart disease. Total blood cholesterol should be between 125 to 200 milligrams per deciliter, with LDL less than 100 milligrams per deciliter. The average person has between 4.5 to 5.5 liters of blood. Total blood cholesterol is between 5,600 to 11,000 milligrams. 2 large eggs, providing 390 milligrams of cholesterol, is between 3.5 to 7% of total blood cholesterol. Assuming your body absorbs all 390 milligrams. 2 large eggs also provides 3.2 grams of saturated fat, and your body can convert the saturated fat into LDL cholesterol. High saturated fat diets increases the risk of high LDL cholesterol and heart disease. Your diet determines the amount of saturated fat. Some low-carb diet promoters admit coconut oil saturated fat increases LDL cholesterol, but claims it's a good LDL cholesterol. The rationale is coconut oil's medium-chain triglycerides are converted into fluffy, harmless, good LDL cholesterol. Even if it were true, most people don't live on a diet of coconut and MCT oils. When it comes to saturated fat, MCT oil is king at 100%. Coconut oil comes in second at 86% saturated fat. 2 tablespoons of MCT or coconut oil supplies a day's worth of saturated fat for a 2,000 calorie diet. Butter is not far behind at 63% saturated fat. 1 tablespoon provides 33% of daily saturated fat calories. A tablespoon of olive oil has about 2 grams of saturated fat, about 75% less than butter. Avocado oil is even lower in saturated fat at 1.6 grams per tablespoon. Most saturated fat comes from your diet. A 4-ounce hamburger patty has about 7.5 grams. 2 strips of bacon add about 3 grams. A slice of processed American cheese about 2.5 grams. This homemade bacon cheeseburger with a 4-ounce beef patty provides 34% of daily saturated fat for a 2,000 calorie diet. Supersized restaurant burgers are 6 to 8 ounces. With fried potatoes, total calories range between 1,200 to 1,700. This restaurant bacon cheeseburger has about 21 grams of saturated fat. The fried potatoes add another 5 grams for 120% of the daily total. Turkey breast meat is not only high in protein, it's also extremely low in saturated fat. By comparison, a 4-ounce serving of chicken thigh meat has 3.4 grams. About 10% of a 50-gram hot dog is saturated fat. 1 cup of whole milk has about 4.5 grams. 1 ounce of English walnuts, about 2 grams. 1 ounce of almonds, a little over 1 gram. 1/2 avocado has about 1.4 grams. 4 ounces of blueberries, other berries, and fruit has less than 0.1 gram. The same for broccoli and most other vegetables. To sum up the facts about saturated fat is that dietary fat is essential. It provides essential fat-soluble vitamins. All dietary fats have some saturated fat. Fat has more calories than any other nutrient. Excess saturated fat can increase LDL cholesterol. And excess body fat and diets high in saturated fat increase the risk of heart disease and other diet-related diseases. Common myths include butter is back, eat all the butter and bacon you want. Saturated fat is not linked to heart disease. A high saturated fat diet is a heart-healthy diet. Medium-chain triglycerides are a healthy saturated fat. MCT LDL cholesterol is good cholesterol. And dietary cholesterol does not increase total blood cholesterol. Please leave a comment if you have any questions about this video. Thank you for watching and healthy eating.